Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. Today is Friday, January 17th, 2020. Thank you so much for joining us. You could have been anywhere in the world today, but you decided to hang out with me, with your boy, and I appreciate that. I don't know if you saw the video of the impeachment managers walking the articles of impeachment from the House to the Senate, but it was quite the dramatic scene. They walked in two lines, two separate single file lines, and looked like they were walking in step. It was really dramatic. I just kind of figured we'd, email them over. But I guess when it's something this momentous, I guess you do it with all the pomp and circumstance that is required or that you can come up with. This is the second impeachment trial in our lifetime, for the most part. I imagine a lot of my audience, maybe some of you weren't born in 98. I think it was 98. I'm pretty sure it was 98. I guess I could Google it, but I'm just going off of memory here. When William Jefferson Clinton was impeached and tried and found not guilty. Obviously, we do fully expect that the Senate will find Donald Trump not guilty, but not because he's not guilty, but because of their partisanship. One thing I admire about the Republicans is their ability to look at America with a straight face and simultaneously say, or rather not just say, but sign oaths that they will be impartial, but then go on Fox News and say that they think there's anything to this and they think this is just a witch hunt, and basically that they're going to work in lockstep with the president. Where's my beer cap? Okay, I don't know if you heard that. I'm thoroughly impressed by their ability to, well, two things. One, their ability to just lie, look at us with a straight face and lie with a level of moral indignation as though they are right. We are so right in the fact that we're lying to you, that we're telling you that we're so going to be impartial. But I'm going to be on Sean Hannity later on, and I'm going to show you just how partial I'm going to be, how biased I am going to be. And then I'm simultaneously impressed by the fact that they have whipped their audience into shape, into submission, so much so, their constituents into submission, so much so that that there is no question that is ever asked about their lies and their hypocrisy. And then there's a third component to this, which actually is going to undermine the second part of that, right? The third component is what we've been establishing pretty thoroughly on the show for some time, and it just came back to my remembrance, is that if they don't in fact lie to the audience, if they in fact told the truth to their audience, to their constituents, the audience would destroy them. The voters would vote them out. It's not just that this coming from the top down with the Republicans and conservatives. It's not that this level of hypocrisy is just coming from the top down. No, it has come full circle and it is bottom up. And the audience has the Republican audience, the conservative movement has a full expectation that every single Republican politician is going to hold the line no matter what they have to do, no matter how much they have to lie. They will never yield. They will never relent. They will never give these liberal hacks, as one senator said yesterday, or was it a congresswoman? I'll play the clip and we'll figure it out. They would never give these liberal hacks an inch, all in the name of not conservative values, mind you, not conservative values whatsoever, all in the name of cheap political wins. I feel like I need to say that again to make sure that it's crystal clear. Republicans are now being driven by their audience, who is demanding that the leaders maintain a certain level of hypocrisy or whatever, not just hypocrisy, whatever they have to do to maintain this hermetically sealed bubble of Republican conservative fixation. I'm trying to find a word that's not ableist, right? But this obsession, there it is, not fixation, but obsession. If any politician does not maintain this hermetically sealed bubble of conservative obsession, they will receive a backlash like they've never experienced. So at one time, it was top down. It was Fox News pouring all of this. It was all the propaganda started back in 2000 with the campaign, the George Bush election, with the movement to the trial, the Supreme Court trial that installed George W. Bush as president, and the propaganda machine behind the Iraqi war, the lies, the deceptions, the clickbait titles, the edited videos. I mean, Fox News did all that it could to secure the future for conservatism. And they did it so well that now the audience, they're like, oh, if you don't give me that, if you don't give me that pure conservative ideology, which isn't really based on any policy, it's just really based on getting a cheap political win. Matt Gaetz, Republican from the 1st District of Florida, experienced that when he signed off on the War Powers Act, the resolution, rather, trying to rein in the presidential power. He received that, Republican. He received the backlash from thousands of Republicans for simply doing what he thought was his duty as a representative who represents more military service people than anybody else in this country. We discussed that last week. So anyway, I don't really know how I even got on that particular point. Oh, I remember. I usually say that in my head, and I usually don't say that out loud, but I'm at a different phase in this show where I'm like, whatever. I got there because I am thoroughly impressed by the Republicans' ability to maintain their lie. Listen to Lindsey Graham as he describes how unbiased he's going to be, simultaneously saying that he's going to be biased.
Not with my vote. I'm going to judge the case based on the evidence assembled by the House. I'm not going to expand the record. This Parnas thing, I smell a rat. It is a complete, never-ending desire to destroy everything Donald Trump. I took Mueller seriously. I don't take Schiff, Nadler seriously, and I don't take Chuck Schumer seriously when he says he's looking for the truth. He's looking to get back to be the majority leader, nothing more.
Oh, really? Okay. Chuck Schumer shouldn't, regardless of what happens, Chuck Schumer should never be the majority leader, but that's besides the point. I just love how he said he's going to, he gives the insinuation that he's going to be unbiased and then tells us that he doesn't believe it. He thinks it's a joke and he's not going to allow the additional evidence. I've already played I'm Not Going to Make You Endure Mitch McConnell again on Fox News several months back when he said he's going to walk in lockstep with the White House on this. He said there's not going to be any difference between his position and the White House's position. I'm not going to make you suffer through listening to him again. Quite a few of you had a very visceral reaction to hearing his voice. So I will spare you that. But the point is that Republicans are at the late stage of conservatism, right? If I can borrow a phrase from Marx, they are at the late stage of conservatism where in order to maintain their ideology, they must sacrifice every bit of integrity. They must sacrifice every bit of their ideology, in fact, right? And Democrats, this is not the strategy. I don't want you to mistake what I'm getting ready to say as though Democrats are playing 11-dimensional chess, because I think Democrats are rather feckless. But Democrats have kind of edged Republicans out of their own ideology, and Republicans have no place to go. They have no place to go. They're even, right now is the era of Republican fascism. So now they have nothing left, and they're willing to betray it to maintain power and for cheap political wins. Right. So when I say they have nothing left, this is late stage conservatism. I mean, they literally will sacrifice everything in order to maintain power because they have nothing left. They have created the perfect storm of their audience and their constituents demanding with irate fervor. I mean, they are rabid They are rabid in their demands that they are fed. They are continuously fed whatever lie is necessary to never allow them or never cause them to confront the truth that their ideology is completely devoid of anything substantive. It is devoid of anything meaningful. It is 100% built around, right now, a cult of personality, but in general, a bed of lies that they have been putting together for the last 20 years. And here we are, where they're at the point where they can't even look at the most corrupt president in the history of this, well, in the modern history of this country. They can't look at him and separate themselves from him, because if they separated themselves from Donald Trump and did what they knew needed to be done, because it is clear that Donald Trump is corrupt, he obstructed justice, and he sought to get a political advantage by withholding aid from Ukraine. If they actually did their jobs, the conservative base would destroy all of their political careers. And so they're just doing the song and dance on behalf of maintaining their political power, because now they're trapped in a system that they can't get out of. And quite frankly, I don't think that they have any desire to. I don't think that they have a desire to. I think if there's any desire in their heart to do something about the corrupt president that is Donald Trump, it is trumped, no pun intended, it is trumped by their desire to maintain power. And they know that if they did anything to harm Donald Trump, their base would put them out of office. I don't feel bad for them. This is the perfect example of that saying of my father's that I just can't get right, that you can appease an alligator as long as you want. When it's all said and done, he'll eat you last. It still doesn't ring. When I say it just doesn't have as much impact as when my dad said it. But whatever.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Boom, boom. Let's go. All right, listen, turn the music down immediately. I normally do not call out how much somebody has pledged, but I missed this person's increased pledge yesterday. Listen, I asked everybody to just increase their pledge by $1. And if you do that, I am so happy and I'm so grateful. But special shout out to Shanikia, who increased their pledge fivefold from $10 a month to $50 a month. Like, where they do that at, sis? I appreciate you. Special shout out to Wendy Sejor. Thank you so much for increasing your pledge. It was phenomenal. Special shout out to our newest patron, Merritt Kirkpatrick. Thank you for becoming a patron. Special shout out to David. Thank you for becoming a patron. Thank you, Video Game Idiot, for that's his name, for increasing his pledge to $10 a month. You rock. Thank you so much, Simon Thorgard. You're going to have to give me the phonetic spelling of your names, some of you. Thank you for doubling your pledge. You absolutely rock. Special welcome to No One Important for becoming a new patron. Well, let me tell you, friend, you are certainly important to me. Special shout out to David Haynes for becoming a patron. Thank you, Vivek, for increasing your pledge. Thank you, Wendy, for increasing your pledge. Hang on, is that the one? Yeah, she increased her pledge. Thank you. I'm going to be careful because someone decreased their pledge and I totally get it. Thank you for still being a patron. Special thank you to Jeremy for editing and increasing your pledge. And very special thank you. I think that's everybody. I've got to get longer patron music. You guys, every single day, it's bigger and stronger. And honestly, I appreciate it because that means I can keep doing this without having to go beg up on some corporate media outlet. All right, let's get to the next story.
This afternoon, we're proudly announcing historic steps to protect the First Amendment right to pray in public schools. So you have the right to pray, and that's a very important and powerful right. There's nothing more important than that, I would say. In a sacred principle of our republic that government must never stand between the people and God. Yet in public schools around the country, authorities are stopping students and teachers from praying, sharing their faith, or following their religious beliefs. It is totally unacceptable. You see it on the football field. You see it so many times where they're stopped from praying, and we are doing something to stop that. That is why today my administration is issuing strong new guidance to protect religious liberty in our public schools. The right of students and teachers to freely exercise their faith will always be protected, including the right to pray. 9 federal agencies are also proposing new rules to roll back discriminatory regulations. So we have rules to roll back discriminatory regulations on religious service organizations. And earlier this afternoon, my White House released a new memo to make sure federal funding is never used to violate the First Amendment.
Okay, so there's a lot going on here. A lot to parse in this really brief statement from the moron in chief. Sorry, I just have to make it clear. Underneath the guise of protecting prayer in school, which has pretty much always been protected, there's nothing new that Donald Trump is offering in terms of prayer in school, because here's where it stands. This is the smoke and mirrors, but I'm going to let's talk about it real quick. You can pray in school. Nobody's going to stop you from praying in school. What we will stop you from doing, me as a Christian, I will participate in stopping you from doing, is forcing other people to participate in your prayer. Teachers or prayer over the intercom or anything of that nature violates somebody else's rights. It's plain and simple. And so there have been guidelines since 2003 that have not been, quote unquote, updated because they didn't need to be updated, because it's pretty simple. Nobody has ever stopped somebody, unless they're just like a bully ass kid who just wants to bully somebody. No one has ever. Can somebody give me an example of when you have been stopped, or someone you know has been stopped from saying their own prayer? You know who I could get an example of? Muslims. So this story is not even about this, but I just want to throw this out here. If you want to see an example of someone being stopped from praying, let a Muslim kid pray 3 times a day, or whatever hours that he's at school, or he or she is at school. Let them pray during that moment and watch someone is going to interrupt their prayer. But in the name of protecting the religious liberty of evangelicals, because they're not really thinking about Muslims, because as soon as a Muslim student says Allah Akbar and they pray, then we're going to really test this religious liberty thing, especially if you're in certain parts of this country. But I digress. Here's what I think this is really about, to the best of my estimation, because there's always going to be the smoke and mirrors. But underneath this is the fact that they're seeking to protect religious organizations from being penalized from the federal government, particularly in the area of funding, to ensure that no religious organization can have federal funding withheld because of their religious practices, particularly in hiring, right? And I'm sure there's going to be some connection to their religious practices in terms of not just hiring, but their ordinances and performance of marriages and whatnot. So as it stands right now, religious organizations have 2 benefits from the federal government. One, they have nonprofit status. They don't have to pay taxes, a 501c3 status. Most of them can get that if they don't have it. They generally are covered by just being a religious institution, and they don't have to pay taxes. That's one. The second one is, if you have a 501c3, you're able to partner with the federal government in order to do some type of social good. That came about, I believe, around George W. Bush's time. Faith-based initiatives. That's what they were called, faith-based initiatives. And in those faith-based initiatives, the federal government was able to give money to churches and religious institutions in order to accomplish some type of social good. So you have 2 major benefits that come from the federal government that are given to religious organizations. Here's the catch. In most cases, when you receive money from the federal government, that means you have to abide by the federal government's rules. Now, here's the thing. When you take money from the federal government, it doesn't matter what type of organization you are, whether you're a state government, whether you're a public school, whether you're a private school or a religious institution. When you take money from the federal government, well, the carrot is the money. The stick is you have to follow their rules. And in this case, in the religious organizations, it's generally the case that you have to follow their hiring non-discrimination rules. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled that if you are a church, you have the ability to hire ministers, quote unquote, ministers that meet your religious practices. And honestly, I think that's a good thing, right? Because there's no need. We don't want to create a situation where you have all types of litigation over whether or not an evangelical church has to hire or discriminated against a militant atheist pastor, right? Not that the militant atheist is a bad person. I'm pretty sure they would have some really cool sermons, but we don't want, I mean, that's not what we need, right? That's not the expression of liberty or rights, right? That is the federal government getting involved in a level that it should not get involved in. But here's the thing. If you take money from the federal government, you expose yourself to those types of problems. You expose yourself to that type of litigation. And the answer to me has always been, if you want to be free to practice your religion and hire based on your religion, which makes sense to me, then stop taking money from the federal government. Period. It's not as though you are hard up for money. Churches are pretty good at raising money, right? It's that you want your cake and eat it too. And a lot of religious organizations, particularly evangelical Christian organizations, believe that they have by right a privileged position in this country where they should be able to not only take money from the government, they should be able to assert their religious beliefs through the government. So it's not just about receiving money. It's not just about receiving money. It's also about asserting a position in this society that they feel religious organizations should have. And that's the problem. So they're stretching their legs a little too far, and they are saying anyone who's challenging this assertion of their religious superiority or supremacy, they are what Donald Trump said in this next segment. They are part of the radical totalitarian left. Listen to this bullshit from your president.
Tragically, there is a growing totalitarian impulse on the far left that seeks to punish, restrict, and even prohibit religious expression. Something that if you go back 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, it was unthought of that a thing like that could even happen, that anybody would even think of something like that happening.
And by suppress religious expression, what he's saying is that people are looking at you receiving, your church receiving federal dollars and discriminating. Now, again, I want to parse this very carefully. I think the proper relationship is that a church should be able, so long as they are not harming someone or infringing on someone else's rights, should be able to practice their religion as they see fit, including in hiring practices. Because, come on, let's be real, an evangelical church should not have to hire, I don't know, someone from the Church of Satan on their staff. Come on, the Church of Satan should never have to hire someone from Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Come on, let people practice their religion without all the other things that are coming into play in terms of litigation and trying to, use the court system to prove anything. Let every religious organization do what it does, even in their hiring practices, but simultaneously don't accept money from the federal government, because when you do, you should be held, because those are public dollars. Here's what I firmly believe. If you want to participate in the public square, if you want to benefit from the public square, if you want to take public dollars, either in the form of direct subsidizing through faith-based initiatives, or indirectly in the form of tax breaks, meaning this is a shortage in the coffers of the United States government that would otherwise be made up by the taxes that churches would pay. If you want those two types of benefits, then you got to play by the rules of the federal government. If you don't want the rules of the federal government to dictate how you manage your church or how you run your religious institution, then don't take the money from the federal government. But hey, that's just my thinking. And I've been wrong before. Not often, though.
Hey Ben, it's Ryan from next door, South Carolina. Just liked how you were talking about and how you weren't going to endorse or I like how you did that. But anyway, you might need to endorse or someone else between now and the first primaries. But that's on you. So the next thing I want to talk about is the president and his name calling. I think he uses Don Jr.'s garbage pail kid collection to get his names. But just looking at my garbage pail kid collection, we got Mixed Up Mitch. We could use that one. We got Itchy Mitch, Bad Pitch Mitch. Let's see, what else can we do here? We got Mad Mike, Mike Spike. What is this? Starlag Mike. These are weird names. Anyway, so I think we need to go through the garbage pail kids and pull out names for the political opponents. Anyway, just wanted to say, hey, thanks for your endorsement of and that's it. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Okay. Hey, man, thanks for that call. Okay, you know what? Why the hell not? Let's do it like this. I hereby officially endorse No, all jokes aside, there's only one candidate that I would support in this campaign based on everything that he stands for, everything that he fights for. He's fighting for 9 out of 10 of my issues. My 10th issue is an important one to me. But at the end of the day, voting for on the presidential level has always been about the lesser evil or harm reduction. And in this case, I could do a little bit better because I'm confident that Bernie Sanders will 100% go in. And on those 9 issues that I am with lockstep with him on, I know that he's going to go in there and like a wrecking ball fight for those issues. So I have no problem in saying very boldly and very definitively that I endorse Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders for president. Let's get that out there. Let's do that. Let's do it, man. Come on, ladies and gentlemen and non-gender conforming individuals. Let me correct myself. So thank you, Ryan, for calling me on my shit. Here's another thing that I will call myself on. I have made a lot of allusions towards and references towards my issues with Bernie Sanders' team in particular. 90% of my problems are with his team. 10% is with him. And the 10% with him is on his stubbornness with regards to reparations and his language on race issues getting better, but not where it needs to be, and kind of some unforced errors that he makes himself. Those are just my little hangups with him, on big issues with him. However, I constantly make reference to some issues that are going on in his campaign that are not my story to tell. And if I wasn't told off the record, I would certainly share the stories with you all, but I was told off the record. And the only reason I bring it up in the first place is because I want you to understand my hesitation. I want you to understand when I say that I'm hesitant to support Bernie Sanders, it's not for anything frivolous. It's not for anything, popular. It's not for me to get along with other people or for any, people always like to accuse me of trying to get on corporate media. Man, look, if I was really trying to get on corporate media, I would drop about 100 pounds and talk about nothing but the impeachment proceedings, right? But I ate a Reuben sandwich last night, and for the most part, this episode is not going to be about impeachment. I just feel like I have a requirement, for basic civics in this country to cover it. But I digress. I know how to go on a long tangent. Let me bring it back in. Here's what I'm saying. People try to say that I don't want you to think that I was reluctant to support Bernie Sanders for anything other than something very substantive that I am not privileged to tell you. And that sucks. So I'm not repeating it just to tell you that. I'm repeating it because it's not fair to you as an audience for me to keep bringing it up. So what I'm going to do going forward is I'm not going to bring it up anymore. I've put it on the record that I have my hesitations about Bernie Sanders, but there's too much work to be done. And it's not fair to you as an audience for me to always reference it and not be able to tell you what it is. But because there's multiple stories that are not my stories to tell. And so I'm going to stop referencing them because, I can't tell you more. I wish that I could. But even if I could, here's what I do know. What Bernie Sanders himself, him personally, what he's fighting for, I believe that when he gets into office, he's going to fight for them. Whether he wins or not, man, that's up to us as a collective body politic. It's up to us as progressives. It's up to us as liberals or however you identify. What we get accomplished is up to how hard we fight. But I believe that there's only one person in this campaign, ladies and gentlemen, and non-gender conforming individuals that will honestly go in there and fight like hell for those 9 issues out of 10 that he and I see eye to eye on. And so with that, I mean, you're never going to get a perfect candidate. And Bernie Sanders, for me, is as close as there is in this entire lot of candidates. So unequivocally endorse and support Bernie Sanders. And in Iowa, hey, all of you who are flying over there to canvass and do what you do, go do the damn thing. And may the best individual win. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. I will see you Monday. Literally, you'll see me with a live stream on Monday. Take care.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.